Our live stream's just about to start. I know it feels a bit odd being back in the boardroom. We've had a good break and here we are back at the grind. So I can see that our live stream isn't come up just yet, I think. Is that right? It is? Right, well, good morning. Welcome everyone. Welcome to 2024. Happy New Year to everyone, to councillors and our executive leadership team and our acting interim CEO and to all our guests here today joining us live stream. Councillors, our agenda today is quite different and varied. Councillors, there will be a couple of little changes to probably the agenda you've got in terms of the closed sessions. We'll bring a little bit forward to accommodate our General Manager, Commercial and Corporate, because of some engagements there. Nothing too significant there, but we'll just bring them forward. So they will come forward to an earlier part in the agenda today. So just giving you a heads up on that. Councillors, we also have, as is normally the case, we have one of the members of our churches together who are here today to lead us in an opening prayer today. So, folks, it very much gets back to normal. So, as I said, welcome back to everyone. I hope you have had a good break. Councillors, we had a call this week from Councillor Joe Burns, who sought a leave of absence for the meeting today. You can appreciate, as his colleagues of Joe's, that he has certainly been moving through a period of bereavement in his family. So he's asked for a leave of absence. So, councillors, I'd just like it if the first order of business might be that we actually move that we grant Councillor Burns a leave of absence. So if someone could move that, Councillor Cruz, second to Councillor Rolfe, that we grant Councillor Burns a leave of absence for the reasons he's given us, and then we'll record his apology if that's all right. So would someone move that we record Councillor Burns' apology? Thank you, Councillor Daniels. Second to Councillor Moriarty. All in favour? Against? Thank you. That's carried. And we certainly pass our condolences on to Joe and his family. And as some of you would know who attended his dad, Mike Burns' funeral, it was a wonderful service. It was well attended, as rightly befits certainly the impact that his dad had in our community and lots of other communities, and certainly from his family, and we certainly pass on our condolences to them. Councillors, leave of absence is required. Is there any going forward? Now that you're all fully fit and rested, and I'm sure you don't, but I'm sure there's a provision for that here. No leave of absence is required. That's good, councillors. Well, on behalf of our community, I acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet here today, and we pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Councillors, I'm not sure that we need a lot of help, but certainly having Pastor Rod McClellan along today might do that. Rod is from the Emerald Presbyterian Church, obviously joined us for Christmas lunch. I think it was the last time we saw you, Rod, although I did see you sweating around Park Run on Saturday. I didn't want to mention that, but I have now. And no one apart from all of the local government area knows now. But Rod, thank you for being along today on behalf of the churches together, and if you could lead us in 2024, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Is this right? Do you want this on?
It is,
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, good morning everyone. Welcome, sorry, not welcome. Thank you for having me, and thank you for, really value this invitation to come and address you all and lead you in prayer, and God willing with some wisdom from God's word as well. So I'm just going to do a short reading, reflect for a minute, and then pray for you. Maybe some of you will be familiar from school days or growing up in a church about what's called the Sermon on the Mount. It's a passage of 3 chapters in the Gospel of Matthew where Jesus' words are uninterrupted. He is just speaking. And I'm just going to read the introduction to that. It starts, when Jesus saw the crowds, he went up on a mountainside, which is why it's called the Sermon on the Mount, and he sat down, and his disciples came to him, and he opened his mouth and began to teach them. I'll just pause for a second. You might wonder why it mentions that he opened his mouth before he began to teach them, since it's pretty hard to teach without opening your mouth. But it makes me think of, probably we've all sat in a classroom with a teacher up the front saying, stop hitting, look at me, stop fiddling, sit still. But this is Jesus in the mountains, crowds around him, and no one is fiddling or fidgeting or talking. Everyone has their eyes fixed on him until his lips just parts very slightly and they know he's about to speak. So that's why I think there's a deliberateness and an eagerness, a hunger to hear what he's got to say. And this is how he opens. These words will be familiar to some people. He says, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. And blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." And just a couple of reflections on that. There's a pattern to all of those. Blessed are those who mourn, poor, pure, hunger and thirst for righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. There's this sense in which these people who are down low and not necessarily low in circumstances, but in many respects just humble in heart, they are the lucky ones. They're the ones who know the highest joy and for whom the highest blessing awaits. And I'll just pause over one of them. In verse 8 of Matthew 5, it says, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God." And if you read the rest of the sermon, that's one of the things you see is that Jesus is very concerned to squash anything like hypocrisy. He's not just after purity of action and good deeds, particularly good deeds to be seen or showiness. He's looking for people who are pure in their heart and in private and in secret. And these are the people who are blessed, and these are the people who actually, ironically, shine a light the brightest because they are. Well, he actually even goes on to say, "You are the salt of the earth." You probably all know that phrase, "salt of the earth." These are the people who matter, who have an impact in a quiet, diligent, focused sort of way, and aren't they just our favourite people? So anyway, just a couple of reflections from our Lord, and I'll lead you in prayer, and we'll pray for Councillor Burns as well. I hadn't heard about their loss, so let's pray. Father, thank you for your word. We thank you for the wisdom that came from the lips of Jesus Christ. We thank you for what this teaches us of your kingdom and your values, that you treasure those who are lowly and humble and pure in their hearts. We thank you that this is a measure that's actually achievable for anyone. We don't need to be born in high places. We just need to have a true sense of ourselves and an authentic humility. Father, we pray for Councillor Burns and his family, having lost his father. And we thank you for the legacy of his father, Mike, and we pray that you will comfort that family in their time of loss. Father, these men and women, as they hear the needs of our community and chew them over and reflect and make decisions, we pray for your wisdom, we pray for mercy and grace and righteousness, and we thank you for your presence with us. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Rod.
Thank you.
Yep.
Councillor.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thanks, Rod.
All right, councillors, I'll draw your attention back to our agenda today, which is firstly to confirm the minutes of the previous meeting, which was minutes of the General Council meeting of the 13th of December 2023. Is someone happy to move those? Moved by Councillor Carpenter, seconded. Councillor Brimblecombe. So it's been moved and seconded. Councillors, now as we normally do, if you could just make sure that you're happy with those. We can officially say last year's minutes. Well, that was the famous declaration of interest meeting. I think we can refer to that now. It'll be recorded in the annals of history. That's been dealt with. All right, councillors, if you're happy with those, that's been moved and seconded. All in favour? Against? Thank you, councillors. That's carried. Councillors, any business arising out of those? I know our action reports generally follow along pretty quickly there, so a lot of those have been dealt with. Any review of outstanding meeting actions? I don't believe there is any there. Councillors, been provided in your agendas. Upcoming agenda items.
Oh, sorry, Mr
Go.
Mayor.
Go.
With the upcoming agenda items, is that where we're up to?
That's it?
Sorry.
Yeah.
I just noted that we're meeting to do our community grants.
Yes.
I don't know if that's meant to be listed on there or not. Is that coming to the February meeting or?
Through the chair, it is the February meeting, so it doesn't meet the stipulations under caretaker, so it's not impacted by caretaker period. So yeah, it will be the February or the March meeting. I'll just have to double confirm that.
Okay, thank you.
So that answers your question, Councillor Moriarty. That's good. Yep, thank you. All right, councillors, conflicts of interest. Anyone recording those? Councillors, and I usually say right there, if there is a conversation that is generated within the meeting that takes us to a point where you might think there's a conflict, we'll record it then as well. I should have acknowledged earlier that notwithstanding Ross Higgins' presence at Central Highlands Regional Council, this is in fact the first meeting where Ross is acting in his interim CEO role. So I acknowledge certainly Ross and thank you very much for your being around here, I guess, over that transition, over the new year, and certainly making sure that our organisation very much knows that its leader is in the building. So I really appreciate that and thank you for that. And Ross, I guess one of your duties is to receive petitions, and I don't believe you have received them.
There are no petitions.
Right, thank you. So there you go, the very famous petition request. Councillors, being there no petitions, we can move along to our decision action reports, and that brings us to our Chief Financial Officer, who has been a very busy person in the last couple of weeks, and that is to deal with Arun Dios will talk to us about the monthly financial report for December, and obviously Helen will assist him with that. Thank you, Arun.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Good morning, councillors. In accordance with Section 204 of the Local Government Regs, a local government must prepare and present a financial report at a meeting of the local government once a month. The report must state the progress has been made in relation to the budget for the relevant period of the financial year. In complying with the legislative requirement, this report presents the financial performance of Central Highlands Regional Council for the period ending 31st of December 2023, measured against BR1. I'll now invite our Manager of Finance, Helen Kirby, to take council through the report in detail. Thanks, Helen.
Thank you, CFO. Through the Chair, and good morning, councillors. The tabled report presents a detailed overview of Council's financial performance at the end of December, measured against Budget Review 1. Budget Review 1, which was adopted on the 22nd of November, reported a revised operating surplus of 2.9 million and a total budget of 295.4 million. At the end of December, the year-to-date operating result of a $5.4 million surplus is favourable to budget by approximately $8 million, due mainly to the timing of actual receipts and payments compared to budget forecasts. Year-to-date operating revenues exceed budget by 1.9 million, due largely to the timing of interest received on cash balances. Operating expenses at the end of December are tracking under budget by $5.2 million, due largely to the timing of spend incurred on contractors and consultants. At 50% of the way through the financial year, actual capital expenditure is only at 21% of the full year budget. When commitments of 27.5 million are factored in, the total year-to-date spend increases to just under $48 million, or 49% of the full year CapEx budget. Council's total cash balance at the end of December is $108.6 million. The timing of actual spend on capital works projects has had an impact on the level of cash outflows. Borrowings stand at $73.2 million, and a decision is yet to be made on the requirement for further borrowings for this financial year. Combined overdue property-related debts for rates and water are $9.2 million at the end of December, which is a reduction of just under $1 million since last month and a reduction of approximately $800,000 when compared to the same period last financial year. Reminders relating to the first half water notices were issued at the end of November, and further recovery action will be taken over the next few weeks in relation to those ratepayers whose water accounts remain in arrears and they have not contacted Council to arrange a payment plan. Council also issues tax invoices for other works and services provided to the community, which are called sundry debtors and are different to a rate account. These debtors stand at $3.2 million at the end of December, of which 63% or $2 million relates to current invoices raised during the month of December that are not yet overdue. Council's standard payment terms for sundry debtors is 30 days from the date of invoice. One of the oldest outstanding sundry debts is a debt owned by Virgin Australia following voluntary administration of the company in April 2020. A provision was recognised at the 30th of June 2020 to account for the potential loss associated with the collection of this debt. Council received a dividend of $20,867.62 on the 15th of September 2022 from the administrator in relation to the debt, representing a return of approximately 5 cents in the dollar, and a second and final dividend of $3,728.67 was paid on the 14th of December 2023, representing a return of just under 1 cent in the dollar. Following receipt of the appropriate documentation from the administrator, a recommendation will be made in accordance with Council's internal processes for the balance of the debt to be written off against the provision. Further information will be provided in the next finance report. Of Council's 4 business activities, only airport and waste recorded year-to-date operating surpluses at the end of December. The actual year-to-date operating surplus of $2.2 million for the airport business activity exceeded the budget forecast by almost $410,000 at the end of December, and this was due mainly to better than expected passenger numbers than forecast to budget. While the waste management business activity recorded a year-to-date operating surplus of $507,000, this was below the budget forecast surplus of $1.1 million due to incurring contractor services earlier than forecast. While the year-to-date forecast for sale yards was an operating deficit of approximately $12,000, the actual result was higher, reflecting a deficit of $142,000 due to the reduced revenue. A more favourable year-to-date result than forecast was recorded for the combined water and sewerage businesses due to the timing of actual spend on contractors, consultants, temporary staff and external plant hire. The forecast operating deficit of $4.1 million was much higher than the actual operating deficit recorded of $800,000. AEC Group is presently finalising the draft public benefit assessment for Council's waste management business, which was recently identified as a significant business activity under the Local Government Act and regulation. A public benefit assessment is required to be undertaken to determine whether full cost pricing or commercialisation reforms should be adopted. AEC Group's findings within the draft public assessment to date is that the adoption of the full cost pricing reforms produces a better outcome for council in the community than the adoption of commercialisation reforms. The draft public benefit assessment report prepared by AEC Group is anticipated to be published on Council's website for comment by the 16th of February 2024, with submissions and comments able to be provided by the public up until the 22nd of March 2024. The final decision on the public benefit assessment will be made in April or May following the council elections. Procurement data shows that at the halfway mark of the year, outside spend exceeds local spend by 12%. That concludes my report, and a recommendation is made that Council adopts a monthly finance report for the period ended 31st of December 2023. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Helen. Councillors, questions? Councillor Cypher.
Thank you, Helen. I'm looking at borrowings by business activities on page 79 of the agenda, the pie graph. And you might have to take this on notice. I'm not sure whether you can rattle this off on the top of your head. But the biggest percentage of our borrowings sit within a category called other council activities. Can you just give us a bit of an idea what those may involve? So we've got waste, that's very, we can visualise what that'd be, airport and water utilities, but what falls under other activities? Like, it's pretty broad.
So thank you, Councillor Siphon, through the chair. So that mainly relates to capital expenditure on roadworks and other community facilities, but I will have to take on notice just to get you the details of the community facilities areas that it relates to.
Thank you. For transparency, I think it would be nice just to know what falls into that category. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cypher. Other questions, councillors? Councillor Moriarty.
Probably more of a comment. Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just wanted to say again, thank you very much to the finance team for your very comprehensive and thorough reports, and thank you for over the time including a lot more of the pie graphs, a lot more of the graphs. So thank you very much, and especially that extra page for the statement of comprehensive income. So thank you for that extra expanded page over the time. It was just a comment, Mr Mayor. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Moreira. Councillor Daniels.
Oh, look, mine was similar. There's an addition of the ratios, which I think is a really good. I really like that actually, to have that included in the finance report. So thank you for doing that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Daniels. Councillor Cypher.
Thank you. The one I'm always on about the rates, the arrears. We see we have reduced those, but and thank you for the explanation about Virgin. We're still ongoing trying to, because there still is an incredible amount of rates outstanding, which is a really major concern for myself personally. So, yeah, just have a comment on that. I know you're doing your best, I'm sure.
That's right. Just through the chair, so we are, we're following our standard debt recovery process. I guess the next major stage in that process is a sale of land process and auction. So that that's something that I will bring to council after the elections.
Yeah. Thank you for that question, Councillor Cypher. You may have heard this morning, I think Rockhampton Regional Council are actually using the sale of land process at the moment to try and recover some of their rates as well. And I think they did it a couple of months ago, and 38 properties obviously reduced down to 3 by the time they got to the auction date, but certainly rate recovery is certainly a big issue, and thank you for raising that question, Councillor Cypher. Councillors, the recommendation is there that we adopt that monthly financial report for the period in 31 December. Is someone happy to move that? Moved by Councillor Moriarty, seconded Councillor Brimblecombe. All in favour? Against? Thank you, councillors. Carried. Councillors, the next report stays with or under the hand of the Chief Financial Officer, which is an amendment to the 23-24 Fees and Charges Register. So I'll hand over to you again, Arun.
Thank you, through Mr Mayor. Councillors, the purpose of this report is to recommend some new fees and wording amendments to the existing fees and charges for this year, which was adopted by Council on the 20th of June 2023. If I can invite Helen to take us through the report in detail. Thanks, Helen.
Thank you, CFO. Through the chair. New fees and wording amendments are being proposed to the adopted 2023-24 Fees and Charges Register for the following 3 key services and facilities: major venues and community facilities, sport and recreation and showgrounds, resource recovery and waste management. The proposed new fees for major venues and community facilities relate to the Bohinia Memorial Hall in Springshaw and the Rollston Community Hall. The adopted fee structure for the Bohinia Memorial Hall in Springshaw and the Rolleston Community Hall reflect fees for either the hire of the whole complex or a fee for the hire of the supper room and kitchen, excluding the auditorium. Currently, there is no separate fee for users to only hire the auditorium, which results in community and commercial users having to hire the whole complex in order to have access to the auditorium in these venues. The proposed new fees will allow users to hire the auditorium separately. The Bohinia Memorial Hall front meeting room was previously occupied by a community group on a permanent basis. Now that this space is available for use, new fees are proposed for the hire of the front meeting room. The fees for this space are consistent with the hire of existing meeting rooms in the region with similar characteristics. The proposed new fees for sport and recreation facilities and showgrounds relate to venues right across the region. There has recently been an increased interest for the commercial hire of recreational facilities across the region. However, there are presently no fees in place to support this interest. The current showgrounds and sport and recreation fees only cater for individual users and organisations on tenure agreements. The introduction of commercial hire fees for the showgrounds and sport and recreation facilities will create an opportunity for local businesses to make use of these venues for various purposes, including food and business vans, business demonstrations and mobile vet vans supporting areas without local vets. The proposed increase in the Emerald Showgrounds commercial hire bond fee is to ensure consistency with the new fees proposed for commercial hire bonds across the region. Finally, while there are no new resource recovery and waste management fees being proposed, there is a recommendation to include an additional note to the relevant section in the current register to provide more clarity about the makeup of the fees. As part of the adoption of the 2023-24 waste management fees and charges, the Queensland Government Waste Levy was combined with the gate fee for the first time. It is proposed that an additional note is added that will read, where applicable, fees and charges include amounts to cover state government waste levy and gate fee for waste material disposal. If approved by Council, these new fees and amendments will be applicable immediately. That concludes the report, and a recommendation is made that Council adopts the proposed amendments to the current fees and charges register. Thank you.
Thanks, Helen. And just a quick question before councillors might ask a question. This is a continuation of that discussion we had, wasn't it, last budget, the budget before, about obviously breaking down some of those fees and charges?
It is through the chair. So there was certainly the feedback that I got from councillors was to make these more accessible, not just for not-for-profit organisations, but in this instance, predominantly today is around that commercial sector. So there has been some interest gained and received from that commercial sector councillors on the use of some of these areas. So at the moment, this will there is an inability, I suppose, to go to some of those because there's a lack of a fee that can be charged. So this will certainly open up those spaces in a little bit more context. The last one, as in item 24, is really just a wording change there to reflect what those fees are being utilised. And item 23 predominantly is around making sure that we get that consistency, which we heard certainly very loud and clear from councillors across those similar facilities. So happy to take any questions though as required.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, John. Councillor Daniels.
Thank you very much. I was really just, with regards to the showgrounds fee, did you, being that it's a new fee altogether for our council, how did you calculate it, I guess, and was it like a comparison done with other regions? Thank you.
There certainly was a comparison done with other regions, but it's more around the consistency aspects with other like facilities, I suppose, throughout the region. That was where that fee come from. So there's, as you'll remember, councillors, there's those commercial fees, which are set either through legislation. In this circumstance, it's really set by the cost of, it could be the cleaning aspects, it could be the renting aspects or maintenance. There's a whole range of things that come into making up that fee. And then the other part of that is getting consistency with those like facilities across the region.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Councillor Daniels. Councillor Seifel.
Thank you. I think this is a great idea to break them all down because it is really tough if you're a not-for-profit and you have to pay, if you only want one little thing,
Yep.
but you've got to pay for the whole bucket. Well, yeah, this makes sense. The question I have, and I think this is a pretty basic question, but your commercial does relate to a registered business, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Okay, so, and I'm looking at Roy Day Park. I know we've tried very hard to have one size fits all across our region, but I really don't think one size does fit all. I think different types of communities are very unique. I'm looking at Roy Day Park. So if, so all the users out there, they have tenure agreements. So if someone, so that wouldn't, that additional fee, if the Gem Fest or whatever they call it now, I do apologise, I can't just recall the exact name now, if they wanted to hire that entire facility, they get it as a not-for-profit, not at the commercial rate, I'm assuming?
So the GEM example as such is a not-for-profit, so they would get it at the reduced amount.
Yeah, so definitely commercial is a registered
Yes,
business.
that's correct.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted that to be very clear, that the definition was the actual definition.
Yes,
Thank you.
can confirm that.
Thanks, councillor Cypher. Councillor Moriarty.
Thank you. I guess my comments really lead on from Councillor Cypher. My concerns too are that these are additional fees. So one concern, I guess, there is around how that's going to be communicated to users and people in the region using those facilities, given they're extra, even though there's benefits to it. Especially for the Rollston Hall. But my other concern, leading on from Councillor Cypher, is that while there's comparison and consistency with how we're charging those fees and moving to that user pay, I do believe that different communities and different users need to be considered in different regions and areas, and that Council will be monitoring whether the fees are not going to be deterring people from using public assets as well. I do understand that, you know, there has to be some charge, particularly for cleaning and maintenance, etc. So two things. Just making sure that people are communicated to, and then going forward that the user pay model is fit for those communities and not deterring those groups from actually using the public facilities as well.
Thanks for your comments, Councillor Moriarty. Through the chair, probably the first part is around the communication. So following today's decision, there are some commercial operators that have shown interest. We will be very happy to go back to them, and certainly through our communications section we can get that out in the public as well, so that that use can be maximised, and certainly concur with you regarding the ability or the budgeting aspects for those particularly smaller groups to be able to afford to go in and use these community assets. It is a consideration that we put forward every year. If you look at the increase that's incurred over those fees and charges for some of those facilities in the 4 years that I've been here, it is very much front of mind, you know, that living capability of living expense. It comes even into those groups. So thank you for your comments, and we'll take that on board.
Yep, thank you.
Councillor Cruz.
Through the chair. So just to confirm, just for example, the example that other councillors have used is the Rollston Community Hall. So whilst these are appear to be additional charges, had they not been actually, I suppose, made separate line items, there could be groups that have to pay more for the actual hall itself if they only want a little bit. Like, so at the moment now they've got to pay for the whole lot.
That's
and
correct.
so this is allowing them to actually hire exactly what they want, and ultimately it would be at a reduced
That's
price
correct.
because they're getting that amount.
That's correct, councillors, yeah. So I think this is really an issue that's been raised by councillors, and not just councillors, but groups as well. So I think this is really catering to, that need, I suppose, that's, I think it's out there, so.
And then I suppose the next comment is if at the moment we currently don't have a fee structure for that commercial aspect,
Yep.
They may not be using they can't use the...
That's correct.
the facilities, and therefore that money can't go towards perhaps, the upkeep of it and not relying on the fee structure from the non-for-profits, for example. So
You're exactly right. So we are, and look, to estimate what that loss of income potential is at the moment is probably difficult, but there is certainly some income there that we're losing for not having that opportunity available for commercial operators.
no, thank you.
I think you're right there, Councillor Cruz. The word add is only adding it to our register, not adding to the cost. The idea is to obviously make it more agreeable to users. So, well, councillors, it's quite a large recommendation because obviously it includes all of those and they have to be recorded in the resolution. And that includes also that wording that Helen alluded to earlier there. So the recommendation is that we adopt the following amendments to the 23-24 fees and charges register, and they number from 1 to 24. Is someone happy to move those? Moved by Councillor Brimblecombe, seconded. Councillor Carpenter. All in favour? Against? Thank you, councillors. That's carried. Thank you very much, Helen. Thank you, Arun. All right, councillors, moving along from the Chief Financial Officer's area of responsibility, we move to communities. Item 12.2.1 is a development application DA 066/2022. I'll hand over to General Manager John to lead us in. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Good morning again, councillors. We have got Patrick Rucci's online, I believe, as well. So Patrick will be dialing in. I would also want to welcome Rebecca McDonald with us here this morning to present the report. Councillors, this won't be you will have already heard a considerable amount of information regarding this development application. With that in mind, I will hand over to Rebecca to walk through the report. As always, councillors, if there are questions on the way through, please would probably like to address them there. It is quite a lengthy report, and if not, we can take questions afterward as well. But thank you, Rebecca.
Thanks, John. Good morning, councillors. Through the chair, this report provides an assessment of the development application that councillors received for reconfiguring a lot for a subdivision from 1 lot into 4 lots made by CQ Inland Port on behalf of Murray and Associates over the land at 82 Rundle Road, Comet, which is also described as Lot 10, RP 867798. The development application is impact accessible and was subject to 15 business days of public notification. During that time, 12 properly made submissions were received from members of the public. The development application is therefore required to be presented to Council for decision in accordance with Council's framework for decision making for development applications, as more than 3 submissions were received. The reconfiguring a lot application seeks to subdivide the land to create 4 large lots, including a future railway lot being proposed Lot 2. The applicant has identified that the purpose of this reconfiguration of a lot is to secure the alignment of a future rail infrastructure loop, linking the existing rail siding at the CQ Inland Port through the site back to the Blackwater system to the north of the YEA and adjacent to the Capricorn Highway. Proposed lots 1, 3 and 4 are balanced development lots that are intended for future subdivision and development as part of a future extension and expansion to the Yamala Enterprise area. Any further subdivision or development of these lots, including proposed lot 2, will be subject to future development applications. The application does not seek approval for the construction or use of proposed lot 2 to be a railway corridor. Under the Central Highlands Regional Council Planning Scheme, railway infrastructure is defined as a utility installation. Therefore, any future proposal to construct a new railway spur or extension to an existing railway line through proposed lot 2 will be subject to a future development application for a material change of use. This application will also be subject to public notification and referral to the state government as part of that process. As part of the assessment of the application, a natural drainage corridor has been identified through the development site that conveys water from within the catchment area towards the southeast. The proposal plan or the plan of subdivision has not shown this catchment on it, but it is important that the natural drainage corridor is protected. A recommendation has been made to ensure that an easement is registered over the drainage corridor to protect that drainage line. This application has been assessed against Council's planning scheme, and considerable weight has also been given to other relevant matters, including matters raised by submitters, the State Assessment and Referral Agency Concurrence Agency response, the Office of the National Rail Safety Regulators Policy for level railway crossings, and the structure plan options that are being prepared as part of the Yamala Enterprise Area Planning Study. Importantly, the Office of the National Rail Safety Regulators Policy level crossings is not supportive of any new level railway crossings. This has been a focal point of the assessment of this application, as the alignment of proposed Lot 2 would result in an extension to the railway line over Rundle Access Road and Bonnie Doon Road. As such, Council is not supportive of any new railway crossings over these local roads. Therefore, any future development within Lot 2 for the extension of the railway corridor will need to comply with the Office of the National Rail Safety Regulators Policy and the structure plans that have also been prepared as part of the Yamala Enterprise Area Planning Study. The structure plans prepared as part of that study demonstrate how the YEA, the Yamala Enterprise Area Precinct, could be developed if the railway corridor is developed within Lot 2, and provides confidence that the rail corridor will not unnecessarily burden the land or future development of the eastern part of the precinct. The structure plans also provide guidance and direction on the types of infrastructure upgrades and actions needed to be delivered by the development proponent should future railway infrastructure be delivered. These upgrades and actions include the need for new road corridors, road opening enclosures, and specify that should the rail be extended over Bonnie Doon Road and Rundle Access Road, this can only be achieved through the realignment of Bonnie Doon Road and construction of rail overpass infrastructure. Based on the assessment completed by officers, the recommendation presented today for Council's decision is a recommendation to approve the development application for reconfiguration of a lot by subdivision, one lot into 4 lots, subject to the conditions outlined in the decision report, and to also issue an infrastructure charges notice in the amount of $32,820. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Rebecca. And as I think you said at the start, there's this application we have received some previous, briefing on this coming to council. Can I just start the question? I think it was raised in a previous discussion about the preemptive nature of this as a development application for a subdivision, but based, I think, largely on the pretext of the extension of that rail corridor. I just needed to understand, or if you could go back to, just so it's clear in my mind, the reference you made to the fact that that corridor then, effectively, you've been advised in terms of the rail corridor that there's no new rail crossings. How does that impact this, I guess, in terms of, does that mean that if this was approved and then it was, and then the rail corridor didn't approve a crossing, what would be the outcome there? That's what I'm thinking in my head. Because I guess what happens here is that it's trying to understand does the rail line influence the reason why we would grant a reconfiguration of lot, or is the reconfiguration of lot part of the potentiality of the rail line?
Through the chair, so there's a few components to that, Mr. Mayor. I guess to the first point, if the subdivision was approved, and for whatever reason a future development application could not support a railway line in that location, the developer, the landowner, would have options to amalgamate that land with other titles, reconfigure the lots. Essentially setting up a railway or a lot for future development doesn't mean that future development must be approved, therefore, over that land. So that will still be subject to the full and proper assessment process. So I guess we've had to consider what this future lot could, what future development over this lot could look like, which ordinarily we wouldn't always consider as part of a subdivision application. Because of the nature of this subdivision and where it is, and because it is in an industry investigation area, which the scheme has flagged, there is the need for additional planning and consideration to be given. I guess a more holistic approach into future uses and corridor links and infrastructure upgrades has been given than what a normal subdivision application ordinarily would. I hope that addresses.
Yeah, I guess the thing that concerns me is, I suppose, the contingency of some of these things on then what would be the reasons why you would approve a subdivision. Now, I guess it's the precedence, I guess you'd say, in terms of the lot sizes, and then obviously the expectation in that particular little neck of the woods. And look, sorry, I should have acknowledged that Laurel and Alan Stensmith are here in the room, just obviously, and Warwick too, to hear this discussion today, so they represent the development application. Just understanding the sort of process that we would, and the narrative that would go with that would actually guide why we would do that. And let's just say, for instance, down the track that there wasn't any need for that railway line, and then effectively there's a subdivision there that sits probably, and this is a question I wanted to ask you, would that subdivision be, or those lot sizes be commensurate with the zoning there, or is that the consideration around it being an investigation area is the reason why we would consider these?
Through the chair, so the balance lots 1, 3 and 4 that have been created are consistent with the zoning and the intended lot size for sort of balance lots subject to further development, so that they're then, I guess, not prejudiced, they're not impacted by this development application at all, and that's something that ordinarily we would, if not for the creation of lot 2, that application would be actually code assessable. So it's the lot size of lot 2 that has triggered this impact assessable application over the site. So if development over lot 2 does not proceed, the landowner may choose to amalgamate that into one of the other lots that adjoins it. So
yeah, I was just making sure that, I guess, if we excluded the rail line, because in a kind of a sense it does kind of it acts as a kind of are we doing the subdivision, or are we sort of preempting? And there's nothing wrong with preemptive planning. I'm all for that, but I guess the answer would be. And certainly for our submitters, and I'm just thinking in terms of that. So the last thing I just wanted to say, in terms of submitters, in terms of the responses to those, I know you put some of those in the report, but have we sort of generally, I guess you got responded to those well, or?
So through the chair, the matters raised in submissions are, we're very much concerned with the impact of future rail infrastructure and safety, impacts on the road network and the impacts of further development within the YEA broadly. So they are very much valid concerns, but not particularly relevant to the actual subdivision itself and what we're assessing at this point in time. So they were, in speaking with a project manager that has led the Yamala Enterprise Area Planning Study, those submissions were considered very much so in that study as well, because they relate to the development of the broader precinct, and I guess would be valid, and those submitters can raise those concerns again if a future development application for the rail infrastructure was lodged, because it would very much be, I guess, considered and potentially given more weight as part of the assessment of that future development application.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. Sorry, councillors, over to you. Councillor Rolfe.
Thanks, Mayor. Rebecca, so it's not yet, so there would have to be a change to special industry if there was to be, is that the next step then for any future development of?
Through the chair, there's a few options available. There would potentially be a zoning amendment, or what's called a variation request, to basically override the planning scheme. The applicant may also choose to lodge an application over the land as it is at the moment, over the industry investigation zoning. Either of those zonings, though, would still trigger, I believe, the same level of assessment, being impact assessment for the rail corridor. So, yeah, there's, I guess, the rezoning application. Alternatively, if council were looking to do amendments to the planning scheme and wanted to actually look at the planning study and consider what that means from a rezoning perspective, council could also choose to adopt some of the recommendations from the planning study and look at the zoning of the YEA precinct.
Yeah, sure. And the only other thing is the actual the gully that runs through it, the waterway, that it's one thing to do rezonings and start doing all sorts of changes to usage of the land, but to make sure that waterway is protected, because it'll flood. We know what happens when things start to get built and what have you. So it's a natural waterway, so it needs to be maintained. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Roth. Through the chair, so the previous drainage master plan study that was prepared by ACS engineers on behalf of council in 2018 has been considered in the recommendation. So we've picked up some of the work done in that report, which has identified the protection of that corridor. So we've included a recommendation for the creation of an easement over that corridor in the report.
Thanks, Councillor Roll. Thanks, Beck. Councillor Cypher.
Thank you. Just need some clarity as to whether I'm thinking in the right way. So when the developer put in the development application, it was simply for the reconfiguration into 4 lots. What was that in the application, that their intention was a railway line? Or is that just in our planning study that we're doing? We're doing a planning study, aren't we? The planning study that we're doing, we're assuming there would be a rail link in the future. So are we trying to configure this area now because of our thinking to incorporate a railway line? Could it be that it's not I'm assuming it is the intention, but are we preempting something that we shouldn't be preempting?
Through the chair, yeah. Councillor Cypher, the development application, when it was lodged, and also during pre-lodgement discussions with the applicant's town planning consultant, identified the purpose of the lot was for rail infrastructure. I think preempting, they sort of knew we'd sort of ask questions because of the sort of skinny, awkward sort of nature of that configuration. So it was covered off from the very beginning. To go to your point about the planning study, that has considered what a rail loop or rail extension with no loop would look like. I guess a lot of the strategic thinking around the precinct sort of hasn't been done in a planning sense to date. So that work that's been done looks at those options, whether it's in, whether it's out, whether it's linked or not linked. So it considers both a situation where a rail link can be approved and also where it develops without that as well. So.
Thank you.
Yep. Councillor Moriarty.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Given that the application is for the subdivision, I'd just like to say that from my perspective, the key words here are future, the potential for future development over the lot. And I think that this is what this is about having an asset that locally that can continue to be developed, and having the rail potentially, like that's in the future if that goes ahead. I think that to maximise that location, there'll have to have the road and rail access for businesses out there and a grain core. I think that makes sense. I do acknowledge people's submissions and what they're talking about, but like you're saying, it's about this is about the subdivision. If there's going to be a potentially a rail loop or link through there. That's for the future. And I think that it's great that the developers being open about the potential for that site and what they're looking at. So to me, it's about potential for future development. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moriarty, and that's what you rightly say there is in terms of submitters. I think it's making sure they understand the narrative and the deliberation allows for future development. Actually, there are other mechanisms, obviously, for the level of development, but clearly the future, the preemptive planning about the rail line is good. There's still some battles there with that. I think, with the greatest respect, it's always been a battle at the inland port. It's a long time, and obviously, but it's a really important thing that we bring everyone along on the trip. And I guess here with submitters, I think they need to, there's been concerns about those impacts. Well, this particular application's, I'm satisfied that it's probably not doing that, but they also need to understand that there's a mechanism in place that if there was all the potential that you talked about starts to develop there'll be opportunities to make sure that, we protect the community down there, and the developers obviously want to do that as well. So, yeah, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Cruz.
Through the chair, you mentioned obviously the concerns about the drainage corridor, which I've brought up previously as well. If and like having an easement over it, if this doesn't go ahead as is planned for the future, what happens with regards that easement? Like if that lot 2, which is, 4 hectares, is, realigned or whatever, is there any ongoing implications with regards that easement? Should it not be, reach its full potential and it ends up being a road, a rail corridor potentially if that's... So, is that an ongoing thing, or if that isn't, if this subdivision doesn't go ahead that way, what's the implications for that easement?
So through the chair, if the subdivision proceeds and lots are registered,
Yep.
An easement will be registered at that point in time, and that easement will burden that land forever until at such time it is extinguished. But council would be, it's supposed to be an easement in gross, so council, it's in favour of council for the purpose of stormwater drainage. If the development doesn't proceed and lots aren't created, then an easement won't be created. So
yeah, I guess what I'm also trying to, through the chair, get at is if there is a decision made today whereby a subdivision is approved and it is not used for what is potentially being listed here and remains a, grazing or, whatever it is, what are the implications of that easement, and what would lead for its removal and or continuation? Like if we basically make a decision today, which means that easement is then in place, how is that potentially revoked, or can it not be?
it can't, so through the chair, it can't be revoked without the consent of council once it's created. Yep. So okay. Just to be clear, the approval today, if given, yep. does not automatically create that easement. It approves a plan of subdivision. Yep. The applicant then has to go through a process to have the land surveyed, have an easement created, have an easement document drawn up and I guess endorsed or signed by council, agreeing to the terms of the easement. So it's only registered once it's registered on a survey plan. Yep. So council has the opportunity to input into the terms of that easement, and there's a legal process that has to, or in a titling process that has to be followed in order for any easement to be extinguished over the land. So council's legal team and the landowners' solicitors would be involved in that process.
Yeah. Okay. Because like while I know that that is well down the track, and that's not the decision we're making now. Obviously, there are concerns that should something be, created there, it's that downstream type thing.
Yes,
So,
through the chair. So the easement in effect protects that corridor.
Yep.
So future development over any of those lots, whether it's subdivision or it's a railway line, that easement encumbers that land, and there are terms that the landowner and subsequent landowners and developers have to adhere to. So it essentially will have an impact on all future development that relies on that corridor for drainage. As part of any future sort of master planning or subdivision process for further subdivision of the land, there may be further requirements for that easement. I can't sort of talk to that at the moment, but it's at this stage, it's just sort of protecting that corridor. What happens down the track, maybe, the need for embellishments or upgrades to it to construct it to a formalised sort of drainage corridor. I'm just sort of speaking out loud here, but at this stage, it's just the creation of an easement to protect the drainage line.
and there's opportunity for that, and obviously, down the track. Yep.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, check and balance, yeah, thanks, Rachel. Councillor Brimmelcone.
Just a question. You said that the easement on the plan is not necessarily where it's going to be. Has there been consultation with the rail owners to the best design or best positioning of that easement? I'm just thinking of some of the landform there. Is it the best place for the easement, is my question. So
through the chair, the location of that easement picks up the main corridor that runs through the lot, and that's been informed by, the survey of the land that the applicant surveyor has completed, and also the work that has been done in the ACS stormwater drainage sort of master plan for the site. So it's sort of identified that corridor as, the main corridor for the broader catchment. There are small little sort of tributaries that sort of come off that, but that is, the major order stream for want of a better.
Question isn't relating to water, it's relating to the proposed railway line itself. Is that the best position for the railway?
Oh, okay.
I suspect there's not a good answer, but yeah.
So through the chair, as part of the information request stage, we actually requested the applicant to confirm, why that location is proposed, and it was looking at the curvature of the rail and the required geometry of the lines to sort of come into the site, and also link up with the existing, if it happens in the future, link up with the existing rail spur to the west in CQ, at the inland port, in the Grain Corp site, and intermodal facility. So that's the reason for that location as far as we're aware.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Brimmelcone. All right, councillors, well, look, thank you. That's been a really, really good discussion. Thank you for answering those questions, Rebecca. Councillors, the recommendation is there, as Rebecca said at the start, is in a number of parts. The first one is it's approved subject to the conditions set out below. The infrastructure charges notice in the amount of $32,820, and the statement of reasons provided below in the decision notice. So, councillors, that's the very long format that obviously approval looks like. So that's columnised there for you. Someone happy to move that? Moved by Councillor Moriarty, seconded Councillor Rolfe. All in favour? Against? Thank you, councillors. That's carried. Can I just pause? Thank you, Alan, Laurel, Warwick, for your patience again. I think I've only said that about 27,000 times in the last 5 years, but thank you again for obviously the work you do. Appreciate it. Yep. Thanks, Rebecca. Councillors, we move along now to the next application, which is in this report, which is a development application for the material change of use for a telecommunications facility, 54 Edgewood Drive, Emerald. So I'll hand over to John again.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, I won't take any more of your time. I'll hand straight over to Rebecca to present the report for us. Thank you.
Thank you, John. This report provides an assessment of a development application that Council has received for a material change of use for a telecommunication facility on part of the site located at 54 Edgewood Drive, Emerald, described as Lot 3 on SP 314245. The proposed development seeks to install a new telecommunications facility that is designed to replace and improve on the existing telecommunication facility, which is currently co-located on the GrainCorp silos, approximately 700 metres northwest of this subject site. Those silos, as councillors may be aware, are planned to be decommissioned and removed in the near future. So hence the application has been lodged to essentially replace that infrastructure that will be removed. The proposed development includes one 35-metre monopole with ancillary equipment, a compound area which is approximately 12 by 10 metres in area, and both 4G and 5G technology is proposed to be installed on the tower. The facility will provide telecommunications connectivity to a large portion of Emerald, including, I guess, most of the southern catchment of area, the southern catchment of Emerald, based on the modelling and mapping provided by the applicant. The operator of the proposed facility is proposed to be Telstra. At the end of the public notification period for this application, there were 33 submissions that have been received. Therefore, in accordance with Council's procedure titled Framework for Council Decision-Making for Development Applications, this application is required to be considered by Council for resolution, as more than 3 properly made submissions were received. The facility will accommodate the immediate and future coverage and capacity requirements of Telstra's networks, and the facility is proposed to be located approximately 220 metres from the closest residential property on the northern boundary of the site. And councillors, with the report that's been submitted, there's a few maps and plans of just demonstrating the location of that tower on the property. The application has been assessed against Council's planning scheme, and consideration has been given to the matters raised in the 33 submissions, as well as the applicant's response to the submissions that was being received. It is noted that a key concern raised by the submitters is in relation to health and safety impacts and the proximity of the tower to residential properties. The applicant has submitted an EME report that has been prepared in accordance with the Australian Radiation Protection and Nuclear Safety Agency's methodology. The maximum EME calculated in this report for the proposed facility is at a distance of 200 to 300 metres from the facility itself. So the maximum EME level calculated for the facility at that range is 0.79% of the allowable 100%, so more than 25 times less than the standard. The proposed facility will have a maximum EME calculation of less than the existing Telstra installation at the GrainCorp site, which currently has an EME calculation of 0.92%. There is also a broader community need identified for the tower, given the existing facility on the GrainCorp silos is due to be decommissioned. Therefore, the proposed facility will ensure continuous and improved connectivity for residents, businesses, emergency services and visitors to Emerald. Based on the assessment completed by officers and the recommendation presented today for Council's decision is to approve the development application subject to the conditions outlined in the decision report. I'm happy to take any questions councillors have.
Thanks, Rebecca. Councillors, questions or queries? Councillor Moriarty.
I guess I've got some comments and questions, if that's all right. My first question, Mr Mayor and Rebecca, is with the potentially with the tower going in, is it going to be higher than what it is currently on the silos?
Through the chair, yes, I believe it will be.
Yep.
I don't. The same question was asked in agenda review, and I don't have the exact figures, but I believe the tower is 35 metres.
Yeah, yeah, and I think some of the other towers have been around the 30, so this one sounds like it's going to be a little bit higher as well, which is my next question, is that when you're looking at the area or radius out from the for transmission, I'm just thinking because it's higher and potentially that the equipment that's going on it might be actually upgraded a little bit more as well. Would this actually service better the Coden Warra area and out to Yamala, as well as a bit further south past Edgewood, like I know at the medical centre, Harvey Norman, and out that way, have had a lot of trouble getting telecommunications. Do you see the potential of those areas getting service better?
So through the chair, the applicant had provided some mapping with the application, and during pre-lodgement discussions that has actually identified that the tower will improve some of those areas which are sort of in sort of mini black spots, I guess, within the main town area.
Yeah.
So the information that we have got is that the proposed tower will in fact have an improved telecommunication benefit to the broader area and that southern catchment. So I can't specifically speak for the specific areas that you identified, but
Yep.
the mapping so the mapping shows that there is an improved benefit for those areas.
Yeah, awesome, because I know residents out at the Codenwarra area have brought that to our community reference group and others through other mechanisms. So that'll be excellent if that's the case. I know that Miranda Heights and Riverview are still in that little gully, so to speak. So my other points are that that we still do need to have we still need to have those telecommunications facilities, or at least a third. I live within 500 metres of the Edgerton Street tower, and it's been there since 2002, so it's been there for a long time. So there's a few of us that already do live. Not that I'm not saying that people's concerns, especially around the EME, is not real. It is, but I live in those kind of areas as well, and the people out at Hawkins. Or areas out at Hawkins Place, they've got another tower as well. But we do need to make sure that we do have at least that third tower, because especially in the case of natural disasters, if we don't have that tower, then you've seen what happens when everyone gets on their mobile phones to communicate with the rest of the world about what's happening. And also the other thing is that if you're going to have newer infrastructure like that monopole put in, or tower, that you're putting in newer infrastructure that potentially, as we know, we've gone from 3G, 4G, 5G, I'm sure there's going to be 6G, 10G, whatever. Once we've got if they go ahead with putting anything out that site, that we've got some infrastructure there that's potentially able to cater for future developments for telecommunications at that site, or for the town overall. And I think, sorry, that was my question, that were my comments, so thank you very much.
Thanks, Councillor Moriarty. Councillor Daniels.
Thank you very much. Just looking at the site location, it's in a rural area. I guess I want to understand why that spot and not further away from houses, like the housing estates that are around it.
Through the chair, so my understanding is in sort of having some of these pre-lodgement discussions with BMM, the applicant for Telstra, they have looked at other alternative sites, and there's sort of a sweet spot that they have to hit to have optimum, I guess, connectivity and coverage. So the further away you get from centres, the reduced, often the reduced sort of connection or service that you have. So there is a need for them to be sort of in central locations, and councillors may remember there was an alternative site that was originally looked at on Rifle Range Road near Council's Water Tower, and the applicant went through some public engagement with that to sort of seek opinions from the residents, and based on that feedback they didn't proceed with that site. So there have been alternative sites that they have looked at in various parts of Emerald, Pilot Farm Road, Rifle Range Road, sort of around town, sort of out of the way, but still close enough to have that connectivity, and I guess create the link that's required. But I guess the consideration of alternative sites isn't something that we're really able to sort of focus on too much as part of the assessment. We have to assess it on the site that it has been applied over.
Thanks, Councillor Daniels. Councillor Cypher.
Thank you. 33 submissions is a lot of submissions. Like, it's very concerning that there's that many. However, reading through them and the responses back to those submissions, like, there's no real research that actually proves anything against these towers. We spend most of our time, a lot of our time, advocating for better connectivity across our region, and I think it's absolutely disgraceful that a town the size of Emerald has black spots, has areas that have poor phone service. Absolutely a disgrace to the Australian society that, you know, it's bad enough you drive down the highway, we kind of accept that, but in a town, I think it's a disgrace. So we spend so much of our time advocating for this very, very thing, and there is nothing that actually, there's no research, sound research, that gives us an indication that there's health issues, they are determined that there are not health issues from these. The biggest health issue is not being able to call the ambulance when you need one. So I'm 100% supportive of this application.
Thanks, Councillor Cypher. Councillor Cruz.
Through the chair, I was just probably following on from Councillor Daniels' comments. It wasn't my question was sort of a little bit similar, but not actually regarding a different site, but within it, I guess wanting to know a little bit more detail as to why they chose the X on the spot within that actual site. I suppose is it the sweet spot with regards probably land elevation, or, you know, why didn't they choose, 100 metres further away, I guess, on that actual site was one question.
So through the chair, Councillor Cruz, I'm not 100% sure of why that particular spot on the site, other than that it is basically adjacent to the northern boundary and sort of as far from the properties to the south as possible, and not sort of too far to the east that it's sort of out of that sort of sweet spot, for want of a better word. So, but I can't speak for why the applicant and the landholder have agreed on that one location. Unfortunately, we just don't have that information.
And just a little bit further, I guess the information that has been provided with regard to EME, with the current towers being obviously decommissioned, and this one being proposed, there's actually already a reduction in what's already there. So. And I just think concurring with Councillor Cypher with regards connectivity, and if you're ringing 000, you want as much connectivity and coverage as what you've got. So, yep, thank you.
And just so you know, in the second paragraph, it does talk about a 35-metre monopole. So yeah. I'm assuming that's the structure.
Yeah.
Yep. Councillor Moriarty.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It's interesting having discussions around where the optimum spot is to have one of these towers. And over the years, I think that we've heard over and over again the optimum spot is to have it at the water reservoir up at the top of Moriarty Street there, and that would potentially do the whole town. But anyway, we just have to keep going through these processes. My other question was that if that tower goes where it is, which obviously these proponents have to negotiate with landholders to be able to find these spots, does it mean that we get better telecommunications at the airport?
Through the Councillor Murray, I can I can take it on notice and confirm with you. We can confirm with the applicant if that is the case. I'm not aware of any, as I said, any specific locations that, whether the airport is within that sort of catchment that has improved connectivity, but I'm happy to revert back to you after the meeting today if you'd like.
Yep, that's fine, but it's not far from Harvey Norman and places like that. So I reckon it would improve it out the airport too. So thank you.
I think there's been, Councillor Rolfe, you'll have to prompt my memory, but there's been some recent announcements, I guess, about the improvements of telecommunications in some of the quadrants around here, and that's certainly that southern, if you like, that angle from literally south of Emerald is actually slated for improvement. Now, I don't know whether this tower is actually part of that strategy, but there is a general improvement strategy that actually deals with that corridor. And
Through the chair, that was from an NBN perspective,
Yep.
so that will help the Wi-Fi connection out there.
Yep.
And we haven't had an update from NBN on that for a little while. We can chase that for council. There were a couple of locations. That was one, and there was one in the industrial area more to the north that there was some upgrades planned there as well for improved NBN access.
So Mayor, just to an update on that, the CHRC councils are combining to do a sort of investigation reporting on the telecommunications, digital, and our next meeting will be in mid-February, and with NBN and Telstra, and so there'll be an update after that about where we're going with it and what their programs are individually. Thanks.
All right. Councillors, that development application is there for us to consider. Once again, I think if you have a look at the recommendation, it's quite substantive. It recommends, obviously, the subject to the conditions set out below in the statement of reasons in there are quite significant. So, councillors, is someone happy to move that? Moved by Councillor Moriarty, seconded. Councillor Cruz, all in favour? Against? Thank you, that's carried. I think that's 2 from 2 for you today, Rebecca, which is not a bad strike rate. So, look, moving along and recognising, I guess, General Manager Carey's need to move on a little bit later on. Councillors, could we move on to the next agenda item, which is 12.2.3, which is the Gemfields Television Towers? John, if you can lead us there, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. First and foremost, just want to apologise from Lisa Donlan's perspective. Is getting some treatment in Brisbane at the moment, and certainly wish her all the best. She's probably, knowing her, would be dialing into this, but I'm here to present this one. And Council, we're here to present for decision today around the decommissioning of the television towers in the Gemfields. This particular report won't be a surprise for councillors. There's been a lot of information provided to you over the years, and just bear with me while I go through a little bit of information. The purpose, as I said though, is to provide is provided to seek Central Highlands Regional Council endorsement on the proposed decommissioning and removal of the 3 television broadcast huts located in the Gemfields. Back in 2000, the federal government opened a program to combat the issue in black spot areas when it was being organised to change from analogue to digital. During that process, the Gemfields residents had the option to secure funded viewer access satellite television, known as VAST installations. The digital retune, basically a shuffling of the digital TV channels to free up a certain spectrum, took place in 2002. These frequencies were embarked for high-speed mobile broadband services and were sold off in 2003. Telstra secured a bulk of the spectrum with Optus and TPG securing the rest. On the 4th of April 2011, following a report to Council, a resolution was passed. Councillor Bolger moved and Councillor Haylock seconded that Council advises the task force that it wishes to opt into the VAST service. However, Council wishes to reserve the right to undertake retransmission if further information proves that this is the best outcome for communities. Furthermore, on the 10th of October 2011, following receipt of a petition regarding the decommissioning of the towers, Council resolution was passed that Council receives the petition and will continue to provide analogue signals for station until the 4th of December 2013. and when it ceases, it is Council's expectation that the residents and visitors will make use of satellite receivers at their own expense. The towers were not operationally decommissioned at that time and continued to be maintained by Council. In 2013, analog TV was ceased, however the towers were not decommissioned. In 2016, estimated maintenance costs were $26,000 per year, including expenses and operational costs. Actual costs since 2009 are $58,884 per annum. A report was submitted to Council to make a decision to continue or to phase out and move to VAST in 2016. Maintenance costs for the towers was investigated with actual expenditure from 2009 to 2022 at a cost just over $800,000. Apart from the direct costs, internal resource costs and staffing and fault management are estimated in the report. I won't go through those, councillors. I'll take those as read within the report. An indication of the work required internally to maintain the towers includes common complaints regularly received. Initial findings and options were presented to Council in a workshop on the 25th of May 2023. Council, you do not have any statutory requirements to maintain or provide this service. In 2015, the SBS transmitter at Springshaw was removed and the rest of the region is required to access the VAST service at their own cost. Council officers deal with complaints most weeks, which require them to drive out and reset towers when they do not operate, and poor design which affects the reception quality cannot be improved without a major capital investment of repeater towers. It is the opinion of officers that the cost of maintaining the television towers for a small proportion of residents is excessive. Council acknowledges that some residents have more recently purchased properties without any knowledge of previous VAST subsidies provided by government. They may have an expectation that free-to-air is a right and therefore will be challenged by the change. In recognition, Council proposes a generous period of 12 months for the engagement and notice of its intention to decommission the towers in December 2024. If approved, officers will investigate alternative uses or commercial possibilities for the towers or consider the demolition of the structures if no need can be identified. In anticipation for this discussion, initial consultations commenced online in December 2023 with community, following questions raised by community members. Very limited concerns were raised in communications to the Gemfield residents to date. A media release was lodged in December 2023 through our CHRC Public Relations and Events team, with some residents responding that it is commonly known that this decision had been coming for many years and alternative access was easily available and used by the majority of residents already. Before you today, councillors, I have a resolution and a recommendation that that Central Highlands Regional Council agrees that the service be removed and that the television towers decommissioned, provided residents with 12 months notice, allowing enough time to arrange other means of television provision at their own cost. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, John. Councillor Soffer.
Thank you. So this VAST service, is that what delivers them like the Channel 7, Channel 10? So if we disconnect this, they don't get that free-to-air TV at all?
That's correct, through the chair, that's correct. So, it's not just to be clear though, the VAST service mightn't necessarily give them the local Channel 7, if that makes sense. It will be a Channel 7 service. Yes. Anyone that's travelled into the Northern Territory, any of those, it might be those more collective type TV stations.
So, and there is only relatively, when you look at our whole region, if there's estimated 20% of the Gemfield's population, that would roughly be around 300 people.
Yes.
Which may seem a large number, but across our region, it is relatively small compared with our regional population. So these people would have to have pay TV?
Through the chair, they'll either have to have pay TV, which they could get Foxtel or one of those, that service, or they could go with the vast opportunity to get the free-to-air channels. So once they get the vast...
So they can get it themselves?
Absolutely.
Correct. Absolutely.
Oh, okay. So this is what I really want to make clear, that they are not going to be without... So they just have to purchase...
Correct.
Which is what the majority of the rest of us would be doing.
That's correct.
So this is actually bringing it into line with the rest of the population in our region.
That's correct. The rest of the are largely rural population, so you're exactly right. So Councillor Cypher, once they purchase the vast system, they can then access those channels through their own vast process. Or
do we have any idea what that would cost?
From memory, we did talk about this. I think it's in the vicinity of around about $300.
Okay, so over the last, since I don't know where the page is now, 2009 to 2022, councils with maintenance costs for the tower, we've spent approximately $824,369, which when you divide that out for 300 people, we've invested $2,747 in 300 people across our region who realistically can today spend $300 to, because it's only going to keep adding up. So that's really, they can invest $300 in themselves. So we, over the past X number of years, have invested $2,747 in them. So I don't really think that's...
I think it gets worse than that because most of the people went and bought their own. So the last few years they'd have been...
Well, by now, yes, there's probably less than 300 people that, yes. So, yeah, I just wanted to make it really clear that it's a small percentage at a huge cost, and realistically we should be looking at the majority, not the tiny minority. So,
through the chair, that you're accurate with your yes. I can't.
Thank you, Councillor Cypher. Councillor Moriarty.
Yeah, and that 300 people, actually, when you divide it, your 2,000 by 13 is less than $10 a year per person. My concern is really about the fact that the potential of having up to 20%, which could be roughly a little bit more or a little bit less. So we're still talking about in the vicinity of about a quarter of the people living across the whole Gemfields. There's 3 towers there. My concern is that as we move out of, as we decommission the towers, that we actually are making sure that we have got a good community engagement and comms plan to make sure that we are actually working with who those people are and their ability to access. Now, while we might be talking about minority against the majority, however, if there's a disaster, a natural disaster of any sort, then it's our responsibility also to be caring for everybody, including the minority. So where I'm coming from here is that, particularly to the timing of December 2024, and I'm even wondering about whether it's actually brought forward a little bit rather than waiting to the middle of your rainy season and potential to have more disasters, so that people have got this new form of communication, because that's the last thing we need to be doing, is exposing people anymore to being disadvantaged if it is the people who are potentially disadvantaged that can't afford to take up the vast or the satellite systems. So I guess I know that I know that there is a vast provider out there. I remember in 2011, 10, and you know, the reason why council did work to support people, back then, of course, VAST was new, and now there is a provider out there, so it is easier to access. But yeah, I just want to make sure that we're sort of like thinking a little bit more about not just the people that can afford it, but the people who can't afford it potentially, and to support and assist them. Yeah, I think that they were my main points, and that.
Thanks, Councillor Moretti. Through the
I just want to make it clear, John, that our emergency management of the Gemfields area doesn't rely on this television service. I know it was an analogy you drew, but I don't want there to be any confusion. We don't rely on this for our emergency messaging and our emergency management of the Gemfields. It's all done by, I guess we spend a lot of money and a lot of time there making sure we get that right. So I don't want people to be confused by that. So if you don't have this, that you're not going to get some sort of level of coverage. So.
Yeah, through the chair, there's probably a few things there for me. We've got a range of tools that we use to communicate. I would suggest that probably more than 95% of the communication is through other means other than television. That has tended to drift away a lot in the messaging aspect. So people will still want to get on the telly and have a look at the forming cyclone at the moment, which there might be questions for me later on. So that is one part of it, but we certainly do encourage and push through that community. We've had a very heavy consultation period around flooding potential in the Gemfields communities, that they use some other medium forms, and particularly through, you know, making sure they log into our emergency dashboard and communicate through email, that type of thing. And I know that's not for everybody. The Gemfields community, though, are very proud to say are extremely resilient and very self-serving in their response to disaster management. Even in recent days, we've seen and witnessed communication techniques out there that are just best in class. So I'm comfortable with that side of things. To answer a few of your questions, though, Councillor Moriarty, the reason we gave the 12 months was to make sure that we did have a comprehensive time there and process to make sure we inform community. I do take on your comment, though, and I think that is relevant around the timing that it will finish. Unfortunately, with our population, some people will wait till the last minute to do that, and you are right, that would be right in the middle of the wet season. So I would be more than comfortable with councillors' endorsement to bring that back. I suppose we're just trying to maximise the time for community to be prepared, but it's a relevant point, and I'll take that on your advice as councillors as to whether you'd like to bring that forward to, say, September or something like that, but I'll be guided by you.
And my final question is, I know that's been discussed at the Gemfields community reference groups, etc., but I also calculated that over that 13 years between 2009 and 2022, I calculated it out as being around that $65,000 a year. What I'd like to say is that if council are going to be saving that much money, can they actually still continue to spend that money at the Gemfields? You know, improving roads, whatever it might be as well. So anyway, that's just my final advocacy for the Gemfields.
I'm happy to respond to that from a collective ELT response, and look, I certainly wouldn't be able to sit here and commit to that. But what we will do is, as we do with every community, we will be looking at but we're going through that process now, Councillor Moriarty, and believe you me, we certainly look at a range of factors where we will need to spend our money, and this year, along with every other year, it will be a very difficult budget process for us, but I just can't guarantee that, and I appreciate your concern there, but we just wouldn't be able to do that. The money will get spent where it needs to get spent. Thank you.
Or be saved.
Or be saved.
Councillor Daniels.
Thank you. Look, it's probably just reiterating what many people have said. I think that you know, when I've gone out into the Gemfields community and spoken to people around this idea, people, when you talk about the cost, they understand, and that there isn't a wide usage of it now. And if you look at, I mean, and this is, we've asked the council operation to look for efficiencies, and this is one thing you brought back to us. So I really appreciate that. And if you look at, I guess, the timeline over the years of when, you know, the first decision that you mentioned, I think it was back in 2012.
It was.
There's been a, you know, a vast increase, pun, of you know, availability of technology, streaming services, you know, the on-demand SBS and iView. So the services are now available, whereas they weren't probably when those initial, you know, those decisions were made to continue on. So I think, you know, on the balance of it, though, there will be some people that have to go out and buy, you know, a box to now access TV. Like, this is the right decision for us. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Daniels.
Thanks, Councillor Daniels. Councillor Cruz.
Through the chair, I'd just probably just like to add as well, I think, you know, back in 2011, like whilst there will be some people who have moved to the area since then, there will be some who at that point in time made a conscious decision not to opt into the funded VAST system then. So that's probably a point. And I think we're talking about decommissioning, but we're also talking about it's despite the best efforts of council and throwing money both, you know, for maintenance and capital at it, because of the topography of the area. It's not a consistent service. So council have done their very best. But at this point in time, we can't guarantee a service that's going to be 100% all the time. So we're not decommissioning something that's working all the time.
Through the chair, you've articulated that very well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I guess coming back to the $824,000, there's two, and that's up to decisions to be made in the future, but that's either a saving or that is potentially put towards projects or whatever it is for the benefit of all. So,
Cool.
yeah. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, councillors, well, look, the recommendation is...
Sorry, Mr Mayor, I think you were headed where I was just about to go to next as well, sorry.
Moving the recommendation.
Well, the recommendation wording.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if we could potentially change the wording to Central Highlands Regional Council agrees that the service be removed and television towers decommissioned, providing residents within or up to 12 months notice, just looking at the potential of, you know, having people moved over, you know, before the November, December period.
So by December, if not sooner, through those words.
Yeah, so it's up to the discretion of council, but it can be within that 12 months, so.
Through the chair, I'm happy to be guided by council, but I've got no problem with that.
So, yeah, the 12 months provides us with, I guess, any time between now and the 12 months, if you... That'll be the absolute minimum. I mean, you got within that, so it won't. Councillor Murray, I'm not sure that it's going to do anything other than just say, you know, we would like to think that probably within the next 3 or 4 months that changes, but you've got 12 months.
Yeah, it says with 12 months notice,
okay.
Not before. It says with 12 months notice. So,
yeah, so that's January anyhow.
So if we're just changing that word to have a little bit more discretion, once you start working with the community to, you know, like it may be sooner or it may be whatever.
Well, but let's get the words right so the intent's right. So if that's the best adjustment we can make. Well, yeah, if you wanted to find the date, we want to make it the 30th of January 2025. Sorry.
The resolution up there is different to the resolution I have on my copy. I only have with, not with, oh, you've just put in with it. Oh, sorry. Gotcha.
The original resolution's on the bottom of the page.
With, yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Right. Sorry, Councillor Cruz, did you have a query there?
Yes, I was just going back to just what the media release actually said. And the media release does actually say before the end of 2024.
Cool, so
it
it's
wasn't
in-
sort of specific
Right.
in that 12-month, because I just thought
Yeah.
if that's already been put out to residents.
And look, through the chair, my preference taking Councillor Moriarty's comments in, maybe, and I know it is only a small proportion that do look at some of that information, whether it's for disaster management or whatever it may be, their own entertainment, but maybe we do go, you know, a bit before and look at just establishing a date. At least the team have got a date to work by, community have got a definitive date, and there won't be any questioning about that. Otherwise, they're going to need to look at resolutions and a whole range of things. So maybe I would prefer, with the indulgence of council, that we nominate, you know, by the end of December or something like that.
Well, your communications already says that, doesn't it? You're going to do that by the 30th, yeah. All right. So, Councillor, do you want to happy to add the date there, the 30th, what is it? 30 days, so September, April, June, and November, 31st of December?
Yes,
You put a date there.
didn't you not want December?
Well, we could have it as the 1st of December or the 30th of, I don't know,
Well, if you say December, everyone will want the whole lot, so, I guess.
just say the end of November then.
30th of November?
Done.
Right.
And
Very good.
Yep.
And sorry, Mr Mayor, and I know that we're in moving with the resolution, but just to make that point of making sure that council do have a good community engagement strategy to go with that, please. Thank you.
Yep. All right. Hang on, we're just doing some minor adjustments here.
Thank you.
Right.
Maybe say with notice, allowing enough time to arrange, enough time, including consultation or something like that.
Well,
You don't need that in there?
did you
No,
want to put it,
that-
you want to
yeah,
put it
just-
full
We're gonna
stop
have to
after
do
30th of
It's-
November 2024?
Part of your procedure,
Because
John.
it's not our prerogative to be sort of advising people what they
No.
should do. It's November 2024, and that's the end, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, full stop.
done.
yeah. And the team,
Yes, please.
Right.
We have to.
Process.
Well,
It's one of those
councillor,
things.
that's the amendment, I guess,
Thank
we're going to propose. So is someone happy to move that? Moved by councillor Typer, seconded Councillor Brimblecombe. All in favour? Against? Thank you, councillors. Thank you for that very good discussion. Councillors, in keeping in time, I'll adjourn the meeting now. It's 11:15. Let's have a 15-minute break for morning tea, and then we'll start at 11, and we'll have those closed session items, I think, Carrie, is that right? Yeah, we'll go into those closed sessions then. So 15 minutes, councillors, if we can be back promptly. Thank you. So is everyone back in that should be in? All right, welcome back to our live streamers. Certainly after our closed session discussions of councillors. We have a couple of resolutions there after those discussions, and the first one is a closed agenda item number 1.1, which is in relation to the Audit Committee Independent Chair appointment. The recommendation is there that the Central Highlands Regional Council approve a 12-month extension of the appointment of Mr Graham Webb PSM as an independent chairperson of the Central Highlands Regional Council Audit Committee with a term to end 28 February 2025. Is someone happy to move that? Moved by Councillor Rolfe, seconded Councillor Moriarty. All in favour? Against? Thank you, councillors. That's carried. The second agenda item is related to discussions at the former Emerald Agricultural College site, and that relates to a recommendation that the Central Highlands Regional Council notes that officers will continue negotiations with the Department of Agriculture and Fisheries and brief the new incoming council regarding their process. Is someone happy to move that? Moved by Councillor Cypher, seconded Councillor Brimblecombe. All in favour? Against? Thank you. Carried. And welcome back, Sanjay. Yeah. All right, councillors, in agenda order, I think that brings us to the Central Highlands Natural Spaces Advisory Group, unless I've missed something.
I missed the Audit Committee meeting.
Oh, sorry. The Audit Committee meeting minutes. So, Carrie, I guess if you could lead us off swiftly through those. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Through the Chair, Council's Audit Committee is established as required under the Local Government Act 2009. This report presents the unconfirmed minutes from the committee meeting held on the 7th of December 2023, where the committee considered the effectiveness of risk management control as well as financial and governance matters. I now introduce, as well as hand over to the Manager of Governance, Millicent Bradley-Woods, to speak to this report.
Thank you, General Manager, and through the Chair. As councillors are aware, the Audit Committee is an advisory function established in compliance with Section 105 of the Local Government Act. On the 7th of December 2023, the 6th Audit Committee meeting was held for the 2023 calendar year. Pursuant to Section 211 of the meeting are attached to the report before councillors today and include a record of items discussed and the recommendations. The Audit Committee meeting was attended by the Interim Manager of Governance, my predecessor. Of note, during the Audit Committee meeting, the committee received the Queensland Audit Office Financial Management Letter for the year ended 30th of June 2023. This confirmed the completion of the audit and the issuing of an unmodified opinion on the financial statements by the Auditor General's delegate. The unconfirmed minutes of the 7th of December 2023 Audit Committee meeting will be tabled for confirmation at the committee meeting scheduled for Thursday, the 22nd of February 2024. Through the Chair, it is the Office's recommendation that Central Highlands Regional Council receives the unconfirmed minutes of the Audit Committee meeting held on the 7th of December 2023 and endorses the recommendations contained within those minutes.
Thank you, Millie. Questions, councillors? All good? Councillor, yeah.
Not so much a question as I noted within the minutes there's a strategic risk to be reviewed. Are we going to have a session after, not in this term, but after the coming elections on that risk register?
Through the Chair, that is correct, Councillor Brimblecombe. There will be a review of the strategic risks that are presented to Audit Committee in the new term of Council, and commensurate with that also a broader review of the risk register.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brimblecombe. Any other questions, councillors? All right. Well, the recommendation there, we received those unconfirmed minutes of that meeting on the 7th of December. Is someone happy to move those? Moved by Councillor Moriarty, seconded Councillor Rolfe. All in favour? Against? Thank you, councillor. That's carried. Now, councillors, I think we can move to the confirmation of those minutes, by the record of proceedings, rather, for the Central Highlands Natural Spaces Advisory Group, and this sits, I think, with John's department. John has noted that Lisa's not here today for good reason. If you could lead us through those, John.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Good morning still, yes. Councillors, this is fairly rudimentary, this one, looking to confirm a record of proceedings for the Central Highlands Natural Spaces Advisory Group held on the 6th of October 2023. I'll take the minutes as read and take any questions as required, councillors, but I'll hand over to you and for any comments.
Councillor Moriarty, you had nothing to add to those? Sorry, Charles, you're still on the...
sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you. No, actually, I was an apology at that meeting, and I think, John, did you chair for me? Thank you very much. Yep. No, didn't have anything to say except that I'm very pleased that the group is really tackling some really important aspects of planning for our bigger parks and natural spaces going forward. And yeah, it was a great move to actually be establishing the group. So, yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Moriarty. And I do note in those minutes there the burn-off reduction in the rifle range reserve, which is quite a very sensitive and valuable space, was achieved with a whole heap of cooperation achieved through your committee, Councillor Moriarty, and obviously the result there and the sensitivity was observed, and it's actually worked really, really well. Certainly after the very, very dry season we had, that's been a really effective management tool that shows that if you do it well and there's a lot of people involved, obviously they get it right. And it was an amazing, admittedly, they did get a bit of a fright because I think the same time we were doing those burn-offs, someone must have thought it was the thing to do in the community because they lit the whole fire out onto Rifle Range Road on the other side, which did achieve some sort of resilience for us, but certainly wasn't intended, and it certainly wasn't the people doing the burn-off. But anyhow, it went really, really well. So,
I think there's a comment there, Mr. Mayor.
Question, councillors? Councillor Rolfe, sorry.
Yeah, just probably not a question, just a bit of an update. The storm that went through Springshaw and the park, one of the gum trees was had to be cut right down and taken away. It twisted off a tree about that round, just twisted it off. But there's also other timber on the other side of the creek that is down, and I believe that the local woodworking group in Emerald is interested in the timber, so that's...
Perfect.
So, yeah, so if people are wondering why those two trees are still just flying over, broken off, it is timber that the woodworkers really appreciate, so they'll come and take it away.
So we'll have a new app soon called Report a Log. Well, report timber.
I was going to...
Anyhow, yeah, I think we probably do have that now. Councillor Brimble-Carn. Yeah.
Just one query on the Mackenzie Park waterfall. I noticed it's not going yet. I suspect it's probably electrical, but I know it had been, they had people setting up the plumbing for it. They were having electrical problems. They had electricians there. I was going to go along and it was going to be working, but it wasn't. So that's that. There are two corrections also within the minutes there. I'll get to those. One is on page 211, Councillor Nixon. Should possibly be previous Councillor Nixon on the last paragraph. And Capella River on the 3 paragraphs further down on page 212. It's the 3rd paragraph down.
And Springfield Tourism and Press Association as well.
Thank you.
All right, we'll tidy those up. Thanks, Councillor.
Thank you, councillors. Apologies about that.
No, all right. Thank you. Councillor Cruz.
Through the chair, I was just number 9 with the Japanese gardens at Blackwater, where it's saying like doing the repairs to the water features and structures and irrigation, with it being a good time with the work being done at the Gungaloo Nunny. I'm just wondering whether, I think previously we've sort of spoken about some signage,
Yes.
some banners and stuff like that, so that people are aware that there is going to be another park of significance and that's what's underway. So yeah, I'm just wondering where they're at, 'cause I think when you see those works, like people that may be in the know, but those driving past
Wouldn't have a clue.
So it
And
would be good to see.
It's a really fair point. I've certainly mentioned that a few times. I think the other thing is it's been prolonged, that work as well. So the majority of that was supposed to be finished by now. We've had some delays with some contractual issues there. So we are working through that, but I agree with you. We need to get some of that hoarding and, some signage up there to inform people. That's been heard loud and clear. So I will follow that up again. I do apologise.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pruitt. All right, councillors, that recommendation there is that we received the record of proceedings of the Central Highlands Natural Spaces Advisory Group held on 6 October 2023, unconfirmed. Is someone happy to move those? Moved by Councillor Moriarty, seconded Councillor Brimlacombe. All in favour? Against? Thank you, that's carried, councillors. Councillors, 14.2.2 is the record of proceedings for the Central Highlands Sport and Active Recreation Advisory Group. John, if you could run through that as well, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, again, record of proceedings for the Central Highlands Sport and Active Recreation Advisory Group held on the 7th of December 2023. I will hand over to councillors for any comments or questions.
Did you want to add anything yet to Chair, Councillor Carpenter? Or?
Yeah, thank you. When I look at the open space plan and all that's been achieved there since we adopted that about 12 months ago, I'm pretty pleased to see that there's every meeting when we sit down, we're dealing with, there's get list of 2 or 3 things to deal with, and there's a whole lot of things there that are actually happening.
Yep.
So that's really good. The other comment would be that nominations are now open for more community members. I think it closes in the next week or so.
It does, yes.
So we'll be working through that with selecting who the new members might be.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Carpenter. Questions? Or Councillor Moriarty?
Thank you very much. One comment and a question. On page 218, under point 5.9, which is about the 4th from the bottom dot point. So it says, in progress, CHRC submitted funding applications for Bluff, Emerald and Capella, and Debbie communicated that pickleboard courts are trending and appealing. So I'm just so happy. Pickleboard and the potential of funding there for Bluff as well as our other communities. And also, I just wanted to clarify, in reading the minutes on the same page, they're under heading 4.2 in planning. It says Sport and Recreation Team planning to bring back the Sports Forum. Fantastic. That's great. And then it says the Sport and Recreation Team wants to try to secure funding from the Queensland Government female grant.
Yes.
And I was just wondering, down further on page 219 under item 8, it talks about women and
yes.
Is that the same funding? Is that what it's called? Female
it's
funding?
It's a Women in Sport grant.
Women in Sports grant, right, that sounds better. Yep,
currently, yes, I'll get the words changed there, Councillor. So it is actively, it's out there at the moment. They've had really good response to it as well, the state government. And certainly sporting clubs listening in. We've actually sent out information through our contacts as well to our sporting clubs that there is funding available there right now to increase patronage from a female perspective into sports. So it's a very easy program for people to make application under, and covers a wide range of opportunities there. So,
And it sounds like it might be all ages and not just for females as well that will benefit.
Correct.
Thank you.
Councillor Grimke.
Yeah, two questions through you, Mayor. Halfway down page 218, 2.13, it says complete infrastructure responsibility. What's that relate to? And 3.2 in progress, currently under negotiation with Sunwater. Again, what does that relate to?
Through the chair, definitely 3.2 is in regards to the area 7 out at the Sunwater, so that the dam itself, which councillors and general public that following will be aware that we're in negotiations for that area 7 out at Sunwater, so that's that one. And it is remiss of me and probably timely, we should be able to, I just can't remember what 2.13 is. It refers to a section in the actual plan itself, but I would have to have a look at that. What we can do though, councillor, is get some more notes around that and update that in the minutes.
Yes, it's not clear.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, apologies.
All right, councillors, that recommendation is there that we receive those record of proceedings. You might add with the words and with changes, with
Yeah,
noted
that's fine,
changes.
councillor. Yeah.
If you could add that, please, Lisa. So that record of the Sport and Active Recreation Advisory Group meeting held 7 December 2023 with noted changes.
Thank you.
All right, someone happy to move that? Moved by Councillor Carpenter, seconded by Councillor Cruz. All in favour? Against? Thank you, councillor, that's carried. Thank you, John. Councillors, we're down to 14.3.1, which is our customer service Q2 performance update for 23-24.
Now,
John, in lieu of General Manager Knudsen having to leave, John will obviously lead this report for
I
us.
will be, Mr Mayor. I just need to get Beck Brosnan. Oh, she's here. Look at that.
At the speed of light.
Ta-da! Thank you, team. While the team are sitting down, through the chair, thank you, Mr Mayor. This report provides council with an update on customer service performance for the second quarter of this financial year and includes performance statistics along with business improvement initiatives and project updates for the reporting period. I'll now hand over to our Customer Service Experience Officer, Rachel McFarlane, to speak to this report, supported by the Manager of Customer Service, Rebecca Brosnan. Thank you, team.
Through the chair, thank you, General Manager McDougall. Good morning, or afternoon, almost, councillors. Just wait so we can get the report up for you.
Just bear with us, councillors. We're just getting the presentation up.
Through the chair, apologies for us being late. There's some issues with the live stream and internet connectivity throughout the office. So we were, for the last 10 minutes, trying to figure out where we were up to on the agenda and whatnot. So apologies we were late.
So just for your reference, Rebecca, you are now in open session and people can't hear you.
Bit stressful there for a moment.
Yeah.
Councillors, apologies. I don't know if we'll be able to get it up on the screens. Are you happy to just play along and we'll read it together? Excellent. No worries.
Yep. Excellent.
If you could just refer to the slides as you go and we'll be fine. Just think what they did 25 years ago.
Exactly. So for Q2, we, for the first time ever, saw that email was our most popular contact channel for our customers overtaking phone, just mildly. We did do a bit of fact checking amongst ourselves to see if there could have been something that caused this, and there was nothing that stood out or immediately popped to mind. But we did see a slight decrease in the overall volume of CRMs for quarter two, with 4,756 totaling the quarter. Of those, we had 1,861 for the Office of the CFO, 1,139 for Communities, 318 for Commercial and Corporate Services, and 1,438 for Infrastructure and Utilities. Just a note that the Commercial and Corporate Services CRMs still include the Property Services CRMs, which now, going forth in future quarter reports, will be under People, Safety and Legal.
A question in as we go, or do you want to?
No, while you're going, it might be best.
Just, I noticed with some of the percentages as in infrastructure and utilities, there's 28% which are overdue. Is there a hierarchy we can have that so we don't see those, or we still see the figures, but it's not recorded as being overdue?
Through the chair, that's a great observation and a great question, Councillor Bramblecombe. We will continue work now that the road hierarchy report that came to council just before the end of the year has been adopted. There's intent for us to review our targets when it comes to some of the service requests that we get around roads and also parks and gardens and some of the others. If they're not going to fall within that 10-day time frame, we can now understand through things like the approved hierarchy of roads when it's likely through service levels that they are to be achieved, and then we can update our service targets in our CRM to reflect that. So that's a piece of work that, following Jason's area, has put forward, that we're hoping to identify through that service levels and then implement that into the CRM system.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
And then request type by volume, we saw the same 5 categories which we would expect out of our previous quarters, with rates and valuations topping, with 1,619 CRMs directly to rates, 1,097 for water, 403 for animals, 301 for planning, and 295 for roads. And our most popular request category for the quarter was the e-notice registration. This was the first quarter where we had that where it ran for the entirety of the quarter, where it was available for people to register. We also had water notices issued in this quarter, which prompted people to register for the notices if they hadn't already. For our additional customer service contact points, we had our after hours emergency services, peak services. They had a 153-second average speed of answer, and a total of 272 calls were made for the quarter, with 66% of them being deemed urgent. We had 721 online service portal submissions. Of that, 523 of them were for the e-notice registrations. 944 pieces of mail were delivered, 717 were sent. We had 9,414 emails, and 224 snaps and solves were delivered. And for our contact centre, we had a total of 5,576 calls made, 67% of which were resolved by customer service over the phone. We also had 13 that were referred onto other agents within the organisation, and 20% of them were resulted as a CRM. As mentioned, this quarter we had our water rates issued, and we also had the water meter readings take place for the next water bill, which will be issued in the next quarter, this quarter. From the water rates, we had 37 water consumption inquiries, and as mentioned, 549 email registration notices, which were prompted by the water rates being received by customers. And we had 84 customers who submitted their water rates by email. So we did have some contractors who were unable to access properties, and we asked customers if they were able and willing to send us a photo of their water meter so that we had that data on hand to give them accurate billing.
Just before you go on, Rach, or Rebecca, I know that you may not necessarily have this at hand, but in a couple of slides back, we talked about the number of inquiries for the e-notices, and then we're talking about, then obviously the next bill comes along and there's a bit more. Have we got a sort of a running, have we got a sort of a tab on just how many have actually registered now?
Yes, so last quarter we had 226 and this quarter we had 549.
Right.
So that'll be
So,
5.
and prior to that, that was the first, they're the first 2 quarters?
Yes.
Right. Okay, thank you.
And on the next slide, just an update on our customer experience project. So we have gone out for a quote to procure our knowledge management system, which will essentially be the Google Maps for the customer service team to be able to assist our customers as quickly and efficiently as possible. It will give our customer service team access to the relevant information at a single source. And we're hoping to have that implemented by the 30th of June, pending our procurement process. We've also made a number of updates in our Tech One system. So we've updated current request categories to be more effective in gathering the required information for the teams to action in a timely manner. And we've also created new categories and decommissioned old ones as needed. We've also made some amendments to our Cleanaway integration process. We've worked with Cleanaway to fine-tune a few things that we were having some issues with. And we've also improved the automated reporting and data collection in Tech One for our quarterly reporting. I'll now take any questions from councillors.
Thank you. Councillor Moriarty.
Thank you.
I was wondering whether I should jump in before you or after you, but no, fine, go.
Only because it was relating to that last slide, Mr Mayor, if that's all right.
No, and mine is too, so.
Oh, okay.
No, I I will jump in, Councillor Moriarty.
Yep.
You said just, when you bring, this information to us, I guess it's very much about the front of the house that's actually, dealing with our customers, and our residents. And I guess what I wanted to ask you, is there a sort of a process where I guess you can actually speak back to the back of the house about actually the sorts of inquiries we're getting and the sorts of continuous inquiries? Is there a learning, an internal learning about, those things that we don't seem to be resolving well? I mean, you can answer call, and I can assure everyone that I've spoken to is very, very pleased with the response they get, but it's sometimes that next step that's the problem. Is that something we can talk about?
Through the chair, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The relationships that we've built with those internal teams and the new, or not new anymore, but the positions that exist in some of those areas where we've traditionally had some barriers to getting resolution. So, say in the Parks and Gardens team where they've got a customer response supervisor in Marcel, where that feedback, and we have a very active communication channel through Teams with the rest of the 28 people that operate at any given time on the call centre. There's a lot of backwards and forwards about the experiences that they're having, that we're all part of it, the leadership team, and we are always talking about what those barriers are and liaising just directly with those teams to sort them out. A lot of the work that Rachel does in the request system is a direct result of either the customer service team or the back office raising problems or issues or barriers or things that just make it hard for the back office to do their job. So some of the work with that Rachel's been doing in terms of the request entry screen is basically the back office telling us we're not getting enough information from the customers when they're putting it in. We've had a huge increase in people putting through requests themselves through the online portal. 700 requests for the quarter coming through the online portal, not Snaps and Solve. That's people going onto our website, finding our portal and lodging a request. They're going straight past customer service and straight into the back office teams. And so those teams are very proactive about contacting us and saying, hey, we're not getting enough information from the customers. And we work through, and Rachel's job from a technical point of view is to make those changes so that it improves it for the customers, but also the back end to get those resolutions.
So go.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. Very similar question actually was how the knowledge management system was, from your end, was integrating back into the other areas into council, and or were they able to access your knowledge management system, and or was your knowledge management system linking to Tech One, where that's where the rest of the organisation linked through? But I don't know if mine's specific, but I think that in your answer just before, you may have answered my question. I felt you did, but yeah, if there's anything else you wanted to add there.
Thank you, through the chair. So the knowledge management project is sort of kicking off. We've got subject matter experts across the organisation. The knowledge management system itself is a different and standalone system to Tech One. The reason we haven't got a knowledge management system yet is post-implementation of Tech One was to see whether they were going to fill that gap in terms of being able to provide a solution so that we could keep using the corporate system. Respectfully, we're 4 years on and that's not available. And so we've made the decision to go out to market and procure a specific solution that houses all of our knowledge management. So it will have direct links to Tech One, it will have direct links to our website where all the pieces of information are, but it's at the customer service team's fingertips as opposed to needing to navigate to those areas themselves. It will talk to those areas where it can. It is integrated with some products. Tech One, in some aspects, it is. And in terms of being available to the rest of the organisation, we're starting off small. So we're starting off with our team having the knowledge and having subject matter experts that provide and fact check the information that we put in there. So we've got a rates person, we've got the building planning and environment teams, we've got subject matter experts that are committed and have put their hand up to say, we'll vet your content for you to make sure it's up to date and we'll help you keep it up to date. It has the ability to go and be available right across the organisation, but we really need to embed it and make sure it's working and have proper processes around it. But there's no reason why other areas can't use that same knowledge management system to assist in their role. But our initial project is for the customer service team, about 30 licences. We'll see how that goes, and then we'll consider, and I'm sure we'll have plenty of teams knocking on our door wanting access to it in due course, so we'll see how that goes.
And hopefully it's all smooth and not lots of patching, but
really
we're going to be confident.
Yeah.
And congratulations on continuing to improve the customer service and experience of our clients, residents.
All of the above.
Thank you.
Right, thanks, Councillor Maria. Councillor Cruz.
Sorry, through the chair. Again, this is probably a comment / question with regards to that knowledge management system. So when you're saying there's, subject matter experts, vetting information and so forth so that you've got it at one point, I guess my question is that something that you currently have access to, but it's in different areas which makes it harder, or is this a new form in which you currently aren't getting that information?
Yeah, through the chair, it's a mixture of both. In a lot of cases, the customer service team build up the knowledge over time and it's all stored in their head. Some of it's on the website, and so they'll go and access the website for information. Some of it's shared within our team's group chat with new starters. We have procedures and all of those sorts of things. We have helpful guides, but it is all piecemeal, it's everywhere. And it's quite fatiguing for customer service and from a reputation standpoint in terms of giving accurate and consistent information, it's hit and miss because it's dependent on the staff members' knowledge, how long they've been with council and what's their ability to know where and how to find the information. Also access to technical staff in the back office when you need them to be able to help you answer an inquiry. So this is designed to basically bring that all together. It is like Wikipedia or Google, where you can type something in and it'll pull back the information, whether it directs you off to the website through a link to say here's the website and you can send that off to the customer from within the knowledge management system, whether it links you off to our Dampstra module where there's learning guides about how to actually process an application in Tech One. It's just all in one central location. We don't want to duplicate any information, so we don't want our knowledge management system to have really up-to-date information but the website doesn't. So we don't want that, and we will work very closely with those areas to, where possible, the website is the main source of truth. It's really linking in the back-end procedures that complement the content that or the information we're providing to the customers. So where's the form live and those sorts of things, and it's easy access to the forms. It's not duplicating what we already have in place. It's just making it accessible for the customer service person purely by doing like a Google search.
That's good, because ultimately, you want the most up-to-date information, but ultimately what you want to be able to build is the capacity in your customers and the capacity in your website for them to be able to navigate and have that information readily available. So, yeah, excellent. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Cruz. All right, councillors, that recommendation is there that we receive that quarterly customer service update for period 1 October 23 to 31 December 23. Is someone happy to move that? Moved by Councillor Moriarty, second Councillor Carpenter. All in favour? Against? Thank you, councillors. That's carried. Thank you, Rachel. Thanks, Rebecca. Thank you, John. Councillors, I believe that's all our agenda items, which brings me to any general business before we close. Thank you. Councillor Brimble.
Just two questions. One relates to tar coming to the surface on the Capricorn Highway near Bluff and Blackwater. I queried before, does that relate to heavy vehicles or the weather conditions or leaky fuel or?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. So the tar coming to the surface is a combination of a number of factors. Weather does play a big part in that, and the type of vehicles that are using it. In relation to the Capricorn Highway, it's obviously a state-controlled road. I will make contact with the department following the meeting today to make sure they're aware and can address the situation.
Yeah, near Bluff, it's actually starting to lift the bitumen, the rock out of the, starting to get small potholes. Only small, but it's starting to actually lift it out of the road surface. So it's going to be a problem very soon if we get water. So.
Yep, thank you, Councillor.
And my second question relates to abandoned vehicles. I notice there's at least 4 on the road. Over the last month, I've noticed quite a few more. Generally, they disappear in pieces rather than being taken away. Is there a process where they can be picked up and removed rather than becoming eyesores and burnt out husks?
Happy to answer that one through the chair. So abandoned vehicles are dealt with under our local laws. Where it gets a little bit difficult though is when they're on main roads, and I believe the ones you're talking about are probably on the main roads. There are 3 others we're aware of in council local road areas at the moment, and they're being dealt with through the local law. I believe with the 4 that you're referring to, we've already had discussions with TMR around their process to remove those as well. So we will continue to follow that up, but they are very much aware of those cars on those particular areas. Yep.
Councillor Roll.
Can I just thank the council or the officers who put the 44-gallon drum rubbish bins along the highway after numerous comments about the rubbish on the roads. So if it just takes 44-gallon drums, then that's what we should do. Thank you.
You don't have to reply. No, it's very unfortunate, but anyhow. Councillor Moriarty.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I guess mine's a little bit of a nice way to acknowledge that part of the things that we do at the beginning of the year is our back to school. So I know I was lucky enough to have a granddaughter starting prep this year, so another first day and first day at the big school. So I just wanted to acknowledge all the children across the region that are back to school this week, and all those that are starting their first day at school and high school, and wish everyone all the best over the coming year.
Thanks, Councillor Moriarty. Very kind of you. All right, councillors, it is...
Mr Mayor, I might just one last little one. This is more just in reaction probably to a little bit of commentary around Facebook on our impending weather situation. So just to inform councillors and anyone online, we are very much being updated consistently from the Bureau of Meteorology through our State Disaster Coordination Centre, and we're acting accordingly on that. There is a communication will be going out very soon. The reason one hasn't gone out prior to now, we've been certainly advised by both through BOM and the State Disaster Coordination Centre just to hold off a little bit, which we've done in the last 12 hours, and you'll actually see that weather implication has changed, or the likelihood of affecting us as severely as what it may have been has changed. So for those that are online and for councillors, please be assured we are very much actively managing and monitoring the situation, and we will provide information as required and as necessary. So just want to put that out there, Mr Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Councillors, it being 12:20 and there being no further business, I'll declare the meeting closed. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, councillors. Thank you, executive leadership team, and thank you to those officers that have subsequently gone. And obviously, we'll remedy that little bit of a glitch we had with our live stream there in due course. So thank you, everyone, and obviously we'll break for lunch. Thank you.